Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Today's chapter is about the oil and the other industries and the future of the economic development. Now, I told you about like in 1971 when the oil was discovered, the UAE started to export oil to other countries, and then there was an increase of the money, and there was a huge economic development in the country. So they actually used the money for the sake of the country and the people. So they started building houses, and they started having hospitals, and they attracted people from outside to the country to work in the country and to help developing it. Now, because of the oil, there was an increase of the salaries and increase of the lifestyle, a change of lifestyle, and there was a change of people how they think. Now, a lot of investments like came to the country. We talked about this in detail in the past. Now, what is the significance of and the size of oil and natural gas in UAE? Oil has dominated the economy since 1973. Actually, it's 1971, and even before, because the first cargo, if you remember, it was in 1962, and since that time, the oil became like an important source of money and development at the same time to the country, and that's why a lot of companies were attracted to invest in the here in UAE. Now, it has provided significant opportunities for investment. Oil reserves have been estimated of almost 99 billion barrels, and the gas is about 6 trillion cubic meters. So it's expected for these reserves, the oil and the gas, to finish after 150 years. Now, UAE government doesn't want the oil and the gas uh, finish first, and then they start to come up with the new ideas, and that's why they actually use the term diversification. If you remember, I told you about it in detail. Now, what is the importance of diversification? Diversification, it aims at finding other sources of revenue rather than restricting themselves to oil and gas only. So with the help of oil and gas and other investments and tourism and investing in education, so they will build the country. They don't depend on one or two sources only, because if the oil and gas are finished in the future, there is no problem to the country. There's still other sources of income coming to the country. Now, how? One of the major things that Dubai has done, for example, as an example, it has started high-class tourism. High-class tourism and international finance as newly developed sectors. Now, with tourism in Dubai, we don't have to talk about it a lot. It's a worldwide known country. One of the major things, like it's Burj Khalifa, for example, and Jumeirah, and Dubai Mall, and in Abu Dhabi, it's the same thing. There are a lot of attractions there. Okay. Now, Dubai International Financial Center. Okay, it offers 100% foreign ownership, so actually the foreigners can own something in the countries. They can own flats, and they are rewarded with investing first, and then they gain money for that. And the second thing, they get a residency visa. So these are some of the things that the government has done to attract people. And for companies as well. So you can start your own company with 100% ownership. Now, the new stock market that started, I think it started in 2004 or something, or before. And then when the regional companies were launched, they actually they were put in the financial market, and this again it was another source of investment, and people started to invest in the stock market, and it's a very successful financial market. These are some of the procedures that actually were done by the government to attract the international investments, apart from the other plans that we will be looking at. Now, another thing about diversification, they invested in tourism. We talked about it in agriculture, industry. There are a lot of industries and free zones around the country, in the whole Emirates, and then trade, and there are a lot of ports in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi and Fujairah as well. Education, it's well known, social sector, and there is another one that's not mentioned here, which is the health sector with the hospitals. Okay, fine. Now, one of the things, one of the industries here, of the major companies, which they call it a free zone place, which is Jebel Ali in Dubai. It is the largest man-made port in the world. It has a free zone, of course, that hosts 7,000 international companies, and it has an area over 57 square kilometers. It lies on both sides of Sheikh Zayed Road. It has almost 154,000 people. In 2015, its revenues were about $87.6 billion. This is a huge amount of money only from Jebel Ali. Okay, now the second one, which is Kizad, it's in Abu Dhabi. So this one is in Dubai, and this one is in Abu Dhabi. Kizad, or abbreviation for Khalifa Industrial Zone of Abu Dhabi, it's 417 square kilometers. It's expected to contribute about 15% of the non-oil GDP of Abu Dhabi by the year 2030. So these are industries are like without actually looking at oil and gas. Okay, and so this is the good thing about diversification. Now, Dubai has set its gas reserves for its aluminum smelter as well, and and UAE has invested in that. We talked about it already, and in free zones. Okay, fine. The second thing, now we talked about this already. Now, to what extent has the GDP of the UAE changed? Okay, the GDP of UAE has changed greatly recently, and there was an increase of the consumption of energy per capita. Okay. Now, in 2006, the GDP was $175 billion. And that, we talked about this in the previous chapter, as I recall, that put UAE as the second country in the list after Saudi Arabia. Okay, UAE has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and then it has less dependent on natural gases and natural resources. Natural resources means oil and gas. So they don't actually depend too much on that because of the diversification, which is actually the tourism, agriculture, industry, trade, social, and health sectors. Okay, they are actually working on more projects now in 2019. And they have a long-term plan that reaches, I think, for 200 years more in advance. And they want to, I think I have it here. Let me just show you. Okay, the future plans. Now, these are some of the future plans. They have it. Now, they want to establish the first inhabitant human settlement on the planet of Mars. So they want to do it on Mars. And the project started in 2017. Now they're planning to send unmanned spacecraft to Mars in 2020. Okay. Now the economy is expected to grow more than 4% annually until 2020, and after 2020 they have more plans. Okay. Now Dubai launched its clean energy strategy in 2050. It aims at making the global center of the green economy. Green economy, green economy. So they want to use like clean, they want to have a clean environment.